Well, my dear friend of mine is the
That would be the answer to
lead
your question
rabbi at Temple
could
Israel.
could you just answer my question, please?
Well, a lot of things happen there. Do you have something in mind you'd like to bring up?
Yeah. Any particular incidents happen of
Well,
anti-Semitism?
there have been acts of anti-Semitism there.
What have you done about it?
Of which I oppose vigorously. We've supported local law enforcement in doing the right thing in those communities. I mean, let me tell you, you're asking me about a place I know a lot about. I've been to Temple Israel an untold number of times, and so if they ever have any security concerns, that is a concern of mine. And absolutely.
So what have you actually done differently to help fight anti-Semitism in Minnesota?
I speak against anti-Semitism. I condemn it as repugnant and wrong.
Let's pause there. You speak against anti-Semitism. Will you condemn Louis Farrakhan's comments saying that Judaism is a dirty religion?
You know, sir, I thought I was coming here to talk about immigration
that was
policy.
a layup question, by the way.
No. I thought I was talking about immigration policy. I didn't know that we were going to be talking about all these matters. I mean, I'm reluctant to just sort of. I mean, we already had one thing where we didn't mention immigration policy at all. I'm fine with you asking about questions around asylum and things like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But now we're going off in all kind of different directions. I think there should be some scope to this hearing. And so thank you for your interest. And we both share a need to condemn anti-Semitism.
A few of my colleagues have gone over time, Mr. Chairman. So I find it disgusting that we would have a witness who's the Attorney General of the state that will not condemn the fact that somebody said that Judaism is a dirty religion. The fact that we have a witness of that low caliber here before the United States Congress is an insult to this institution.
I'd like to put a finer point on one of the things you asked too, because the responses were that they say, well, due process hadn't been completed. Let's say due process is completed. There is a final order, but the person isn't accused of any crime. Their only crime is being in the country illegally, as Senator Moreno did. Mr. Schnell, would you advise the Minneapolis police to assist in a final order? Their only crime is that they're in the country illegally.
Senator, if there is a judicial order, absolutely, we should comply.
Attorney General Ellison.
Certainly.
Okay, see, I think that's unclear, not maybe from Mr. Schnell's point of view, but I think from the edicts and things coming down, I don't think it is clear. People have the feeling that you don't want any cooperation with ICE on someone who's here in the country illegally. So I think as we look at this, if we only say, if we're Democrats and we only say, oh, it's ICE, 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 and we don't say, well, that the cooperation had anything to do with it, and I'm not saying it justifies any kind of bad behavior, but I really haven't gotten the feeling, and I know it's been contentious, but I haven't gotten the feeling that you're willing to accept some responsibility for the lack of cooperation escalating this problem.
Can I respond, Senator? Before Operation Metro Surge, ICE was operating, legally and in a cooperative way in the state of Minnesota. People may like the way they were operating, but they were operating legally and with cooperation. It is this dramatic escalation that has caused so much problem. And so you're recommending that I try to be more clear. I will certainly take that to heart, sir, but this surge is, in fact, a very serious issue.
And it's not without criticism. I'm just saying that there is the sense in the country and in Minnesota that you wouldn't want, that you're so opposed to deporting someone just for deporting them that you don't want anybody to enforce it, that you don't want the police to be involved with this. And so I think it is necessary, if you do believe the police should cooperate, to say publicly the police of Minneapolis will cooperate. It's going to be the way we're going to get to less ICE here by having 10 police officers go with one ICE agent to arrest people, but that you're for that. And I can't tell you what to say. I'm just saying I want less tensions. I don't want more people to be, unjustifiably injured or killed. So it's a thought. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but Senator Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all of our witnesses for being here today to testify on government oversight. So while I won't be focusing on ICE and all of those issues. Those are significant issues. I do focus on a lot of issues that come down to fraud within the federal government. So again, want to thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your time. So I'll set the stage. We have a lot of families like mine that live in Iowa, Minnesota. I come from a blue-collar working family, a farm family. My parents farmed, they worked very hard. Their parents ahead of them worked very hard to get where we are today. I'm very privileged to sit in this seat today. My sister works for a trucking company. She and her husband farm. My brother is a blue-collar labor union worker for the railroad. Every one of their tax dollars needs to be protected because they work darn hard in all types of weather. They work outside. They don't have the privilege of sitting in a cushy office working 9 to 5. But what we have found in the federal government through years and years of the work that I have done on oversight is that 1 out of every $10 that Americans send to the federal government is squandered away and lost in fraud. 1 out of every $10. So there's no time to waste in giving Americans peace of mind about how we use their hard-earned dollars. We have seen examples like the Quality Layering Center in Minnesota recently, but this is happening in every single state. It's not just Minnesota, it is every single state. And accordingly, Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit my Squeal Award to Minnesota Governor Walz for the state's massive fraud ring for the record. I'm putting
Without
together,
objection.
thank you. I'm putting together a package of pragmatic, bipartisan proposals because I have friends on the other side of the aisle that see this as a massive scam against the American public. They see this and they want to deal with it. They want to prevent waste from ever occurring again. For too long, Congress has pretended to search for who is actually responsible for the amount of fraud and waste in programs after those funds have already gone out to the states and localities. It's almost like a problem Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Gang might face. So right here, folks, well, the mystery is solved. Congress is responsible. By allowing weak incentives for states and localities to police spending after those grant funds are dispersed, fraud is able to increase more easily, and it's harder to recoup improperly used taxpayer dollars. So, Representative Niska, too often the federal government writes a check and then looks the other way. How should Congress redesign incentives to ensure states have real skin in the game and safeguards taxpayer dollars once those funds have left Washington, D.C.?
Well, thank you, Senator. And you're absolutely right that people respond to incentives, and especially immoral people respond to incentives. And unfortunately, we've had both in federal programs, but especially the way the Walz administration and Attorney General Ellison have overseen those programs in Minnesota, we have seen an enormous loss of our important taxpayer dollars. We should be tightening up eligibility requirements, making sure that states and local governments are actually going out and checking on whether meals are being served. The Feeding Our Future fraud scandal that we heard about was a situation where there were sites that were supposedly feeding kids where nobody could have fed them. And if Minnesota officials, including Attorney General Ellison's office, which was involved in litigation at that time, had just gone out and checked, they would have been able to find those problems. The problem is that Attorney General Ellison has fought to cover up the records from closed investigative files. He's fought in the courts and the legislature to amend our sunshine law law so that he doesn't have to disclose what happened in those investigations, and that needs to change as well. But absolutely, the federal government needs to be overseeing our taxpayer dollars and making sure that states who are administering those programs are doing it better than Minnesota has done. It's been a complete failure.
Yes, thank you. And Attorney General Ellison, under your watch, unfortunately, Minnesota has achieved the largest COVID fraud scheme in American history.